There are moments in life when everything changes in seconds. For me, it happened because I forgot my coat. Just one forgotten coat. If I hadn't gone back that afternoon, I would have married the wrong man, and I would have spent the rest of my life regretting it. Because the conversation I overheard that day destroyed my wedding, but it also saved my future. Hello, everyone. Before I tell you my story, please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy emotional family dramas, shocking betrayals, and unexpected endings. My name is Olivia Parker. I'm 28 years old, and this is the story of how one conversation changed my entire life. 6 months before everything fell apart, I thought I was the luckiest woman in the world. I was engaged to Ethan Carter, and honestly, I adored him. Ethan wasn't flashy, he wasn't rich, but he was kind, funny, reliable. He remembered little things, like how I hated mushrooms, or how I always needed coffee before speaking in the morning. He made me feel safe, and after 3 years together, when he proposed on a quiet beach at sunset, I said yes immediately. It felt perfect, like the beginning of the rest of our lives. Wedding planning was stressful, of course, but Ethan and I handled it together until his mother got involved. Her name was Linda Carter, and from the moment I met her, something felt off. Not terrible, just strange. She smiled a lot, complimented me often, but somehow every compliment felt like criticism. "Oh, Olivia, you're so brave to wear that dress. You look lovely for someone who doesn't usually wear makeup. You're lucky Ethan doesn't care about appearances." Little comments, tiny cuts, nothing obvious enough to complain about, so I ignored them, because Ethan loved his mother. And I didn't want problems. As the wedding approached, Linda suddenly became extremely involved. Too involved. She wanted to choose flowers, the menu, the music, even my wedding dress. Whenever I disagreed with her, she would smile sweetly and say, "I'm only trying to help, dear." And Ethan? He always defended her. "Mom means well. She's excited. Please don't overthink it." So I tried not to, because I loved him. And love makes you excuse things you normally wouldn't. 3 days before our wedding, Linda invited me to her house. "Just us girls," she said. "I'd love some quality time before you officially become family." That sounded sweet. So I accepted. When I arrived, she greeted me warmly. We had tea, talked about wedding decorations, looked through old family photo albums. Everything seemed normal. In fact, for the first time ever, I thought maybe I had judged her unfairly. Maybe she really wanted a relationship with me. Maybe things were finally improving. Around 4 o'clock, I left. She hugged me, smiled, and said, "See you at the rehearsal dinner tomorrow." I drove away feeling relieved. Until 10 minutes later, I realized I had forgotten my coat. My favorite coat, the one my late grandmother had given me. I immediately turned around. When I reached Linda's house, her car was still in the driveway. I didn't bother knocking. After all, I had just left. I quietly opened the door and stepped inside. Then I heard voices coming from the kitchen. Linda wasn't alone. Ethan was there. I smiled, until I heard my name, and instinctively, I stopped walking. At first, I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. But then I heard Linda say, "After the wedding, she'll do exactly what I say." I froze. Ethan laughed. Actually laughed. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. "She trusts us completely. Us. Not me and him. Us. Him and his mother." Suddenly I couldn't breathe. Linda continued. "Once her inheritance money comes in, everything will be easier." Inheritance? My heart started racing. Because my grandmother had passed away 6 months earlier. And yes, she had left me money, but only Ethan knew about it, nobody else, or so I thought. Then Ethan answered, "She still thinks I don't know the exact amount." Linda laughed softly. Poor girl, poor girl." Those words hit me like a knife. I felt physically sick. But what came next destroyed me completely. Linda said, "You deserve someone wealthier anyway." And Ethan replied, "Mom, we're already this close. Let's just get through the wedding first." Get through the wedding. Not celebrate the wedding, not enjoy the wedding. Get through it. As though marrying me was a business transaction. My hand started shaking, then Linda lowered her voice. But I still heard every word. "Once your names are combined financially, things become much easier. I felt like the room was spinning, because suddenly, nothing felt real anymore. This couldn't be Ethan. Not my Ethan. Not the man who brought me flowers. Not the man who cried when he proposed. Not the man who promised to love me forever. And yet, I had heard his voice. I knew what I heard. Then Ethan said something I'll never forget. "She'll never leave me before the wedding." And both of them laughed, as though I was some naive little girl. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. But instead, I quietly grabbed my coat from the hallway and left. Neither of them knew I had been there. Neither of them knew their secret was no longer safe. I drove home in tears. For hours I sat on my bedroom floor, looking at our engagement photos, our wedding invitations, my dress hanging inside the closet. Everything suddenly felt fake, but a small part of me still hoped I had misunderstood. Maybe there was another explanation. Maybe I hadn't heard everything. Then my phone rang. Ethan. I stared at his name. And for the first time in 3 years, I couldn't answer. A few seconds later, a text arrived. "Miss you already." I burst into tears. Because after everything I just heard, those words felt like a lie. And deep inside, I knew something terrible. The conversation I overheard wasn't the whole story. Because if Ethan and his mother were hiding this, what else were they hiding? I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Ethan's voice again. "She'll never leave me before the wedding." Those words kept repeating in my head. 3 years together. 3 years of memories. 3 years of trust. And somehow, I suddenly didn't know the man I was about to marry. But I still wanted answers, not emotions, not assumptions, answers. Because if I was going to destroy my own wedding, I needed to be absolutely certain. The next morning, Ethan showed up at my apartment with coffee and pastries, exactly like he had done hundreds of times before. He kissed my forehead. "Good morning, beautiful," I nearly cried, because everything about him felt familiar, normal, as if nothing had happened, and that's what terrified me the most. How could someone lie so naturally? "Everything okay?" he asked. I forced a smile. "Just stressed about the wedding," he laughed. "Only 3 more days." 3 days. I almost said, "Not anymore," but instead I smiled, because I wasn't ready to confront him. Not yet. I called my best friend, Rachel. As soon as she heard my voice, she knew something was wrong. An hour later, she arrived with takeout and ice cream, because that's what best friends do. Her everything. Rachel sat quietly for several minutes. Then she asked one question. "Has Ethan ever borrowed money from you?" I frowned. "Not really." Then I stopped. Actually, there had been small things. His car repairs, his credit card emergency, his temporary business investment. Nothing huge, but enough. Rachel looked concerned. "Olivia? Have you ever checked his finances?" I blinked. "No." "Why would I?" she sighed. "Because you're marrying him?" And suddenly, I realized something embarrassing. I knew his favorite food, his favorite movies, his childhood stories. But I knew absolutely nothing about his finances. That evening, curiosity got the better of me. I remembered Ethan once using my laptop to print something. His email account had remained signed in. I hesitated. I knew it was wrong. But then I remembered the conversation at Linda's house, and I opened it. At first, I found nothing unusual. Work emails, wedding confirmations, travel advertisements, normal things. Until I found a folder, hidden and labeled Future Plans. My heart started pounding. Slowly, I clicked, and instantly, my world shattered. Inside were spreadsheets, financial plans, debt calculations, mortgage projections. But one document caught my attention. Its title read, Olivia Inheritance Estimate. I froze. My entire body went cold. Because someone had calculated my grandmother's inheritance down to the exact dollar. Every penny, every asset, everything. I couldn't breathe. Then I saw another line. Joint investment timeline after marriage. I started shaking. This wasn't love. This was planning. business planning. And suddenly, I felt sick. But then I noticed something strange. One file wasn't created by Ethan. It had Linda's name attached to it. I opened it. And what I read made my blood run cold, because at the bottom of the document were these words: after securing financial stability, he can decide whether to stay. Stay. My vision blurred. Because according to his own mother, their plan included the possibility that he might leave me later. I burst into tears. Not because of money. Because I suddenly realized something heartbreaking. I wasn't a partner. I was a backup plan. Rachel came over immediately. Together, we printed everything: emails, documents, screenshots, evidence. Then she asked, "What are you going to do?" I stared at my wedding dress hanging across the room and quietly answered, "I don't know," because despite everything, I still loved him. And that was the worst part. The following day was our rehearsal dinner. Everyone looked happy, excited, families laughing, friends celebrating. And I felt like I was attending my own funeral. Linda hugged me. "Tomorrow you'll officially become family." I almost laughed. Family. What a strange word. Then Ethan wrapped his arm around me. "You okay?" I smiled. "Just nervous." He kissed my cheek, and for one terrifying second, I almost forgave everything, because love makes people weak. But then I remembered the spreadsheet, the inheritance calculations, the laughter, and reality returned. Halfway through dinner, Ethan's younger sister, Sophie, approached me. She looked nervous. "Can we talk?" Outside, she immediately started crying. "Olivia, please don't hate me." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" She wiped her tears. "I overheard Mom and Ethan arguing yesterday." My heart stopped. "Arguing?" She nodded, and then she said words I never expected. "Ethan wants to tell you everything." I froze. "What?" "Mom doesn't." Sophie started crying harder. "He said he can't live with the guilt anymore." I stared at her, because suddenly, nothing made sense. If Ethan was using me, why feel guilty? Why argue? Why hesitate? Then Sophie whispered, "Mom has controlled him his entire life. He always tries to please her, and honestly, I don't think he's strong enough to stand up to her." I felt completely lost. Because now, I had two possibilities. Either Ethan was a liar, or Ethan was trapped. And I didn't know which was worse. Later that night, after the rehearsal dinner ended, Ethan walked me to my car. Before I got inside, he grabbed my hand. His eyes looked exhausted, almost frightened. Then he quietly said, "Olivia, we need to talk tomorrow morning." My heart skipped a beat. "What about?" He swallowed hard, and for the first time in years, I saw fear in his eyes, real fear. Then he whispered, "There's something I should have told you a long time ago." I stared at him, but before he could continue, his phone rang. "Linda." He looked at the screen, then at me, and suddenly, he looked terrified. He rejected the call, something he had never done before. Then he leaned closer and said, "Please trust me until tomorrow, our wedding day." And somehow, I knew. Tomorrow wasn't going to be a celebration. Tomorrow was going to change everything. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was excited, because I was terrified. The wedding dress hung beside my closet. My shoes sat near the door. The flowers had already been delivered. Everything was ready. Everything except me. Because deep inside, I knew one thing. By the end of the day, my life would never be the same. At 6:30 in the morning, my phone rang. "Ethan." For several seconds I stared at the screen. Then I answered. His voice sounded different, broken. "Olivia. We need to meet." I closed my eyes. "I know, please. There are things you don't know. Come to the park, the same park where he proposed." 40 minutes later, I found him sitting alone on a bench, still wearing jeans and a hoodie. Not wedding clothes. Not the confident groom I expected. Just Ethan. And honestly, He looked exhausted. The moment he saw me, tears filled his eyes. "Thank you for coming." I sat beside him. Neither of us spoke for a while. Finally, he whispered, "I know you heard something." My heart stopped. "What?" He looked down. "Mom told me you forgot your coat that day. She realized later the hallway door had been left open." I froze. "So she knows?" He nodded. "And she panicked." For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he looked directly at me, and for the first time in months, I saw complete honesty in his eyes. "I failed you." Those 3 words broke my heart, because I had waited months to hear the truth. And now, it was finally here. "I never wanted to use you. I swear. But Mom knew about your inheritance. She kept saying it would help us. She said we could finally breathe." I looked at him. "Us?" Tears rolled down his face. "At first, yes, because I was drowning." He confessed everything. His business had failed 2 years earlier. He had hidden his debts from me. He felt ashamed, embarrassed, weak. Then his mother convinced him that marrying me would solve everything. Not because he didn't love me, because he was desperate. And desperate people make terrible decisions. I hated myself for it. I wanted to tell you, every single day. Then he reached into his pocket and handed me a folded envelope. "What is this?" "My confession." I opened it slowly. Inside was a handwritten letter, and the very first sentence made me cry. "If you're reading this, then I finally found the courage to tell the truth." He had written it weeks earlier. Weeks. He had planned to confess before the wedding, but fear kept stopping him. Then he said something I never expected. "I'm canceling the wedding." I looked up what he nodded. "You deserve better than a man who lied. I love you, but love isn't enough. You deserve honesty." For several seconds I couldn't speak, because despite everything, I could see his pain, his regret. And for the first time, I understood something important. Ethan wasn't evil. He was weak. And weakness had almost destroyed both of us. Then suddenly, another voice interrupted us. "Absolutely not!" We both turned. Linda. She had followed him, still dressed elegantly, still trying to control everything. "You are not canceling this wedding." People nearby started looking. But she didn't care. She walked toward me angrily. "Do you realize how much money has been spent? The guests are arriving. The venue is paid for." Then she looked at Ethan. "You are embarrassing this family." And in that moment, something changed inside him. For 33 years he had obeyed her, protected her, excused her. But not anymore. He stood up and calmly said, "No, Mom." She froze. "I beg your pardon." His voice became stronger. "The wedding is canceled, and so is your control over my life." Linda looked shocked. Actually shocked. "Ethan, no. You taught me to fear disappointing you. You taught me to hide my problems. You taught me that appearances matter more than honesty. And I almost lost the woman I love because of it." Tears filled Linda's eyes. Because for the first time, her son had chosen himself. Then something unexpected happened. Linda started crying. Real tears. Not anger, not manipulation, pain. She sat down and whispered, "I only wanted to protect you." Ethan shook his head. "No, you wanted to control me." And suddenly, she looked old. Not powerful, not intimidating, just lonely. Very lonely. Then she whispered something heartbreaking. "After your father died, you became my whole world, and finally, everything made sense." She wasn't trying to steal her son because she hated me. She was afraid of losing him. Fear had turned into control, and control had turned into destruction. That afternoon, the wedding was officially canceled. Guests were shocked. Family members called constantly. People demanded explanations. But for the first time in my life, I stopped caring what other people thought, because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away, even from something you've spent years building. Months passed. Ethan entered therapy. I entered therapy. Separately, not together, because healing had to happen individually first. We didn't speak for almost 6 months, and honestly, it was necessary. During that time, I rebuilt myself. I traveled, started painting again, spent time with friends, and slowly, I remembered who Olivia Parker was outside of being someone's fiancé. 7 months later, I received a text from Ethan. Just 3 words: "How are you?" Not "I miss you." Not "come back." Not pressure, just kindness. And little by little, we started talking again. Slowly, honestly. As two people. Not as bride and groom. Not as victims. Not as broken people trying to save each other. Just two people learning how to communicate. 1 year later, we met again in the same park where everything changed. He smiled nervously. "I don't have a ring," I laughed. "Good." He laughed too. Then he said, "I don't know what the future looks like. But this time, no lies, no secrets, no pressure." And for the first time in years, that felt enough. People always ask me, "Do you regret canceling your wedding?" My answer is simple: no. Because I didn't lose a wedding, I saved my life. Sometimes the worst day of your life becomes the day that saves your future. And all because I went back for my coat. The end.